From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good morning. I am Dan Cohen, Executive Director of the Digital Public Library of America, and on behalf of the board, the staff, and the DPLA community, I want to welcome you to DPLAfest 2016. So this marks DPLA's third birthday, and we're thrilled to have you here for 2 days of workshops and activities and conversations and so much more. The people in this audience really make DPLAfest and make DPLA itself. We have so many people in the audience to thank for what really is a gigantic collaborative effort to maximize access to our shared culture. And we've got a particularly great lineup this year with attendees from across the country and indeed around the world. We have people coming in from Japan, several people from Japan and Europe and other places to join us, and from so many different institutions and fields and disciplines and walks of life. And really out of this diversity and great spirit, we can do great things together. I'm particularly delighted to be hosted in these wonderful treasured spaces in our nation's capital, the National Archives, the Smithsonian, and right here in the Library of Congress. This space is really terrific. It's great to be here. The DPLAfest program is bigger than ever, with headline panels taking place right here today in the Coolidge Auditorium, as well as smaller focus presentations and workshops happening in other spaces in the Library of Congress throughout the day. Tomorrow we'll pick up where we left off at the National Archives and the Smithsonian's Ripley Center for even more presentations, workshops, and other engaging discussions. We've got so much to do that I'll keep my remarks brief this year, since we have an incredible lineup of speakers here in the plenary. First of all, I just want to thank the Library of Congress so much for graciously hosting us today. And thanks also to the National Archives and the Smithsonian Institution for hosting us tomorrow. In a few moments, I'll invite the heads of these distinguished organizations on stage to say a few words to kick off this year's DPLAfest. And we're also joined here by our essential funders, both public and private, who really have enabled all of the work we've done to date. I also want to highlight the DPLA board, which is up here in the front. Maybe DPLA board, if you could stand. We have both original members who've been here from the start. And we have some new members as well who are joining us to provide new ideas and new energy. I'm really thrilled that they could join us as well. We also have our staff. They are here, I think, mostly over here. You'll recognize them by their yellow lanyards and frequently having a DPLA shirt. Maybe if the staff, if you could just stand up, just so people can say hello. There they are, our intrepid staff. If you need any help or assistance, they're here to help. Also, since I have brutally overworked them the last few days, if you want to give them a high five or a hug, they would appreciate that. Thanks so much to the staff. So without further ado, let me give you some updates and some milestones of where the Digital Public Library of America is. So first of all, this is our biggest fest to date, and we have over 450 registrants and so many more hoping to attend. We had a very long wait list. We're very sorry for those who are tuning in from afar. We'll do our best to inform you via social media. I'll give my yearly reminder. We paid a lot for the DPLAfest hashtag, so please use it liberally. We are also recording sessions, including this one, and those that are taking place here in the auditorium, and those will be available online after the fest. We also have the broadest array of programming to date at a DPLAfest. We have 65 sessions. I want to, in particular, thank Kenny Whitebloom, our DPLAfest czar, who has been able to put this all together with the staff, featuring 170 speakers over 2 days. We're really thrilled that since the inaugural DPLAfest in Boston in 2013, the fest really has become an exciting event for so many people from so many places, so many cultural institutions, places in education and law and technology and libraries and archives and museums and authors and publishers. All of them have made DPLAfest a home and a place to talk to each other, an essential part of their year. Let me now talk about the growth of DPLA and our national network, which really is at the heart of what we do. Our Hubs network provides access to digitized content, and it's growing at a furious pace. Here's the map from our launch year in 2013. And you can see that we just had fairly scant coverage. And here's where we are right now. We have a footprint now with service hubs in almost half of the states and many more in process to join. And we're really looking forward to completing this map in the coming years. It's something that's really quickly coming into reach. Many thanks to our funders and the efforts of our community to support full coverage so that really any collection of any size in the United States has a way to join the DPLA and to distribute their content nationally and indeed internationally. We really are approaching the point where we have a true national library. Actually, can I have members of our hub stand up in the audience, and let's thank them all for their work in putting together this incredible collection. We're also delighted to announce we now have 1,900 contributing institutions to the DPLA, an amazing number that's up from just 500 contributing institutions at launch. And this includes institutions like the Smithsonian, really large national institutions with millions of items, and it also includes in the lower right the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum in North Carolina. Yeah. Shout out to the Core Waterfowl Museum fans in the audience. Yes, I put that slide in there for you. It really is a combination of heterogeneous institutions of all sizes working together. The diversity of our collection has also become astonishingly rich because of these 1,900 institutions. We have millions of books, 2.5 million books in the collection now. We have 1 million photographs. We have maps. We have artworks. We have so many other kinds of items that we are adding, and our growing audience is increasingly viewing and watching and listening to what we've been able to put together. It's really terrific. However, I am sorry to report that we recently discovered we are missing one item type. Our staff did a census, and unfortunately, we do not have any selfies in the collection, so I'm actually going to rectify that right now. Okay, this is the participatory part here. Are you all ready? Okay, here we go. We're going to take a selfie. Actually, it's an Ussie. Okay, here we go. All right, hold on. Everybody smile. Okay. All right, there's a cute baby in the back. We need you, baby. Okay. Well done. I am texting this to our social media manager right now as we speak, and this will go out. Synergy here. In our new Instagram account, which you can follow online, so you can follow it there. I will try to do this at the same time. Okay, now that we have satisfied the exhibitionists in the audience, I would like to say that if you are someone who likes to keep more private, you're not a selfie person, we're delighted to let you know that DPLA is moving to HTTPS. For those who want an encrypted connection to our site. We're not 100% there yet. Most of the site works. We have a very complicated tech environment with the DPLA. But if you want, you can, in fact, start browsing DPLA, dp.la, in HTTPS rather than plain old HTTP. And the DPLA tech team is working to iron out any remaining problems in the next couple of months. The API will also be secure. So shout out, can I have a round of applause for the tech team? Tech team, stand up also for their work. Thank you. Good dancing there, Director of Technology, Mark Matienzo. Last year, we kicked off a new initiative around education, exploring the ways that DPLA's rich content can be used in the classroom. with enormously helpful funding from the Whiting Foundation and our Educational Advisory Committee and our staffers, we've been able to produce primary source sets that can be easily added to any curriculum. Earlier this week, we announced that we are now up to 100 primary source sets, all free and open, gathered from those 1,900 institutions, the best material from across the country, all ready to be dropped into any syllabus, any curriculum, start using them. If I could get a round of applause, I know our Educational Advisory Committee is scattered throughout the audience, and also Frankie Abbott and Samantha Gibson, our staffers who worked so hard on the primary source sets. If I could get them to stand up, and we can thank them as well. I'm also delighted, last year at DPLAfest, we announced a partnership with PBS Learning Media, which reaches so many teachers and students every year. And I'm delighted that those same primary source sets are now available through PBS's digital media learning site, pointing to our primary source sets. They're all there live so that people can find this wonderful content where they're looking for it. Another major initiative that comes to fruition today is our collaborative work around right statements. That is, clearer ways to express what you can do with these millions of items in the DPLA. And I should announce that we now have over 13 million items as of today in the DPLA. Yes, that's great news. These are large-scale digital collections, and one of the things we found is that it is hard for those teachers and students and the general public to understand what they can do with these materials. Sometimes the right statements are not very clear, and we knew that the same thing was true among our partners and partners at Europeana, who are here today. They also are making millions, tens of millions of items available, and there are indeed collections across the globe that make library, archive, and museum collections available, but the right statements are unclear. And we have worked so hard over the past 2 years, thanks to Knight Foundation funding, to streamline these right statements and to make them international and interoperable. Super clarity, and we're delighted that today, I should also note, we worked with Creative Commons, who provided advice, and DPLA and Europeana have launched rightstatements.org. You can go there right now. Yes, worth a round of applause. Again, funded by the Knight Foundation and in collaboration with Creative Commons, Kennisland, and key stakeholders of the Europeana and DPLA networks, we received so much help from members of our hubs. We've created standardized right statements that will, for the first time, make it easier for cultural heritage institutions and aggregators to communicate the copyright status of cultural heritage objects online. And really what that means at the end of the day is it's for users of our sites, it will become so much easier to understand how they can use the objects they discover via our platforms. These right statements will cover 3 general categories of rights around items held in our cultural heritage institutions. I just want to highlight here Ryan Janelle, who did the Creative Commons logo, has done, in fact, our right statements logos. And you will see these across websites in the coming years. They'll be very clearly identifiable. These statements, in fact, talk about 3 general categories. Those that are in copyright will be very clearly labeled as such. Those that are not will also be labeled as such. And those where we are a little unsure about their status will at least be clearly labeled as being in that confusing category and leave it to the end user to decide what to make of that. There are a variety of statements that come out of this in those 3 categories, and you can read all about what they mean on rightstatements.org right now. It is live. We have a press release going out, and we're just delighted about this work that we've been able to do in concert with Europeana and friends at Creative Commons and other hubs. So actually, if I could get, we have members of Europeana who are here who worked with us on that, Harry and Paul and others, and Antoine. And also Emily Gore led this effort from DPLA. There's Harry. Europeana has been such great friends of DPLA from the start, and we're really thrilled that we could work with them on rightstatements.org. So you can get ready to see these marks associated with cultural heritage items internationally You'll be able to search collections so much more easily for those items, for instance, that can be reused. And they'll take their place, I think, in a very complementary and supplementary way with the Creative Commons marks, which, of course, can only be applied, of course, to items that you create or recent items that Creative Commons licenses can be applied to. So I'm really thrilled about the launch of rightstatements.org. They're also, for the nerds in the audience, machine readable. They have standard URIs, so this will all be connected together on the web. Finally, I want to give a brief update on a really exciting project that recently launched and which fits into DPLA's mission, as I put at the start, of maximizing access to our shared culture. The Open eBooks Initiative, generally supported by the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and in collaboration, really a strong collaboration with our friends at New York Public Library, as well as First Book and Baker and Taylor. And with $250 million in ebook donations from award-winning frontlist books from major publishers, has experienced really just tremendous uptake in just its inception. As we announced earlier, we went over 1 million access codes distributed. There's an app that kids can download after their caregivers apply. And kids in low-income areas can access thousands of books completely for free. And they're, in fact, reading. Hundreds of thousands of books have already been read. We're excited that these kids are getting access to these things. We see on social media these wonderful photos of kids using these things in Indiana and Anacostia here in the DC area and other places. The White House, this has been part of the White House's ConnectEd initiative. And the White House has received handwritten letters like the one in the upper right that really express thanks. And really, at the end of the day, it's not about distributing access codes or the technical platform, although these are wonderful, incredible things. At the end of the day, really, this is what we all want, right? We want kids to read wherever and whenever, whether it's in a paperback in the backpack or a phone in the back pocket. If I could have those in the room who've worked really overtime for the past year and a half to launch the Open eBooks Initiative, if you could stand up. I particularly want to highlight our friends at the New York Public Library, Micah and James, and at DPLA, Rachel and Michelle. Simply amazing work to get these books in the hands of millions of kids across the United States to access these wonderful ebooks. So, lots of great news in the DPLA community. We've got one more bit of good news. And here, I'd like to hand the mic this is going to sound a little biblical, but we have 3 Davids coming up on stage now. And I'd like to start with the acting Librarian of Congress, David Mao. We're so appreciative again to the Library of Congress for hosting DPLAfest and for working so closely with us over these next 2 days. And we're looking forward to further work with them. And here's David to talk more about our relationship and the wonderful work the library does online and off.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you very much, Dan, for that wonderful update on what DPLA has been doing. I'm very happy to welcome all of you to the Library of Congress. We're very honored to be co-hosting this DPLAfest 2016 along with our colleagues at the National Archives and Records Administration and the Smithsonian Institution. DPLA has come a long way since it launched in 2013. As you heard Dan just mention, the statistics are amazing, from a few million to now over 13 million, I think you said, in just a few short years. Clearly, DPLA is well on its way toward the goal of bringing together libraries, archives, museums, and all the wonderful content in all of these historical places so that they're freely available for researchers, students, and the general public. Now, as supporters of America's libraries, archives, and museums, many of you probably already know much about the Library of Congress, that we were established by an act of Congress in 1800 as the first federal cultural institution here in the United States, that it was our third president, Thomas Jefferson's personal collection, or at least part of it, that helped seed the collection here to develop into the library as we know it today. But many of you may not know that today the Library of Congress has over 162 million items in its collection, and multiple petabytes of digital content. And so we are a very large institution, and we welcome you here. Actually, let me see a show of hands to the extent that I can see. How many of you, this is the first time that you've been to the Library of Congress? Okay, that's pretty good. Actually, I'm pleased with that result because there weren't that many, and I guess with a room full of library, museum, and archive lovers, that's to be expected. I welcome you back to the library. But for those of you that have not been to the Library of Congress before, I hope you'll take this opportunity to really explore us, get to know us better. There's time later in the schedule for you to take a tour of this historic building, which was first opened in 1897. The library was originally in the Capitol, was a very small library, and then this building was created in 1897. But we have 3 buildings here on Capitol Hill, a facility up in Fort Meade, Maryland, 25 miles away. We have a state-of-the-art conservation center for audiovisual materials down in Culpeper, Virginia, and we have 6 international offices. So we're delighted that you're here and hope that you will experience the library while you're here and get to know us and want to come back. And for those of you that have been here before, certainly please feel free to explore and see some of the changes that have taken place and some of the exhibits we have up since perhaps the last time you were here visiting. So you're visiting the library at a very historic time in the almost 216 years of existence. We've only had 13 Librarians of Congress. I think all of you probably know that the last Librarian of Congress, James Billington, now the Librarian of Congress Emeritus, retired last fall, and the President has nominated Dr. Carla Hayden, currently the CEO. Dr. Hayden, the current CEO of the Pratt Library up in Baltimore, to be the 14th Librarian of Congress. And so we at the Library of Congress are just very delighted that the process is moving forward, and we look forward to the future of the Library of Congress. I also want to thank very much David Ferriero for asking the library to join in with both the Smithsonian and the National Archives to co-host this event. The Library of Congress is not currently an official partner with DPLA, though I should probably say that over 100,000 of our digitized book files are currently available through DPLA because of our participation with the Hadi Trust. But I'm happy to say right now that we are working very closely with DPLA, looking to bring closer our collaboration, and we've started initial discussions with DPLA, and we look forward to happy announcement soon enough. But today is just the first step in terms of our continuing collaboration. We're very happy to host DPLAfest here at the library, and I just want to welcome you again and hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at the library. Thank you.
Thanks so much, David, and we're looking forward to working with you as well. Next up is Secretary of the, David Ferriero of the National Archives. This is the problem. Sorry, I'm going to change your names now. I'm David Ferriero, who's really just been a friend since the planning phase of DPLA. And in fact, they hosted the very first DPLA planning meeting in 2011. I was there. We now have almost 2 million items from the National Archives. Thanks, David, very much.
I believe it's more than 2 million. Isn't that right, Pam? Okay. So good morning and welcome to Washington. When was the last time you were introduced by 3 Davids? I'm really pleased to be co-hosting this event with our colleagues from the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian. Thanks to all of you in the room. I'm very proud of what you have all accomplished and the fact that you have joined us on this journey. I was in that room on the Radcliffe campus in October of 2010 when DPLA was born. And a shout out to Bob Darnton, our spiritual leader. Who convened us, encouraged us to be bold, to think big, and to be inclusive. In my head, the D in DPLA will always be Darnton. Thanks, Bob. I'm so proud of the role that the National Archives has played in getting us to where we are today. Today and tomorrow, many of my staff will be presenting on their innovative projects including sessions on making gifts, developing digital collections for K through 12, as well as gamifying transcription. We'll host a hackathon. We'll talk about mobile apps, APIs, and our work with Wikipedia. These topics that were foreign to our agency just a few short years ago are now critical to our mission today. I'm excited to see our agency moving forward and leading in these areas. But what I'm most excited about is the historic partnership you will see over the next couple of days among the Smithsonian, the Library of Congress, and the National Archives. Our three institutions have been working together not only to host this event, but we have been exploring further ways to work together on a variety of projects. It just makes sense to work together since we share similar missions and common challenges. We can help each other. For example, our three institutions are developing a project to digitize World War I content and increase the creative reuse of these records. And staff from the National Archives, the Library of Congress, and the Smithsonian will introduce a World War I mobile app at this conference, as well as discuss opportunities and challenges we see in working together. The point that is clear to all of us is that collaboration is the path to the future. We are all on that path today, with all of our institutions working together to make the vision of the Digital Public Library of America a reality. Open access to the collections of major cultural, historical, and research institutions improves democracy through education and furthers the principles of open government. We welcome you here today for the third annual celebration, and I look forward to welcoming you to my house tonight.
We have the slides back on. Thank you. Our final David, last but certainly not least, Secretary of the Smithsonian, David Skorton, who will say a few words. And of course, Smithsonian was a founding hub of the DPLA, and we have 1 million items. Now I'm worried about getting the numbers wrong, maybe more, from the Smithsonian, David Skorton. Thanks so much.
Thank you. What you may not realize, even Dan may not know, is that the three Davids were actually triplets separated at birth, and our organizations use us interchangeably. If they're not getting along with one of us, they just swap us out. So I do want to also welcome you on behalf of the Smithsonian and my other partners, and I'm very, very honored to be doing this with the other two Davids and the other supporters. A little tiny bit about the Smithsonian. Was founded in 1846, so we're celebrating our 170th year. And we have a collection, your collection, of 138 million things. 127 million of them are biological specimens of various kinds, and the remainder run the gamut very, very broadly. We also have 19 museums and galleries, the National Zoo, and 20 libraries. All right. And I do want to acknowledge the work of my predecessor, Wayne Clough, who was secretary, and also acting Smithsonian Provost Richard Kieran, many of you who may know, who were there, as David said, at the start of the DPLA in 2010. And both embraced the Smithsonian mission, or the motto of our founder, James Smithson, to found an institution for the increase and diffusion of knowledge. And the diffusion part is unbelievably important. And 1.25 million objects are represented from the Smithsonian and DPLA and many others. And we've had over 2 million viewers of Smithsonian objects on the DPL site so far as we can tell. And I want to acknowledge, even though I don't believe she was able to be here today, our wonderful Smithsonian librarian, Nancy Gwynn, many of you may know. I was at the Library of Congress recently, thanks to David's gracious invitation, for a tour, and I was just fascinated. And among many other amazing things about the Library of Congress, they have a collection of musical instruments. And I'm a failed flutist, and so they allowed me to briefly play a beautiful Boehm 19th century flute. They heard a couple notes and they grabbed it away from me. But afterwards, I decided to go online and search the DPLA. And I have found many, many interesting source photos and documents, and had a little tiny bit of firsthand experience. It's enormously exciting, it's enormously inspiring, and it's enormously important. And I hope that the remainder of the time that you have is useful time. I hope that you enjoy the enormous number and variety of things to do here, that you have a chance to explore all three of our institutions, and most importantly, that you have a chance to talk with each other and push each other to make this incredibly important project even more robust. Thank you and welcome.
Wow, thank you so much to our three hosts. We're just, again, delighted to be here and delighted to see their collections in person and to have conversations in their spaces. Thanks so much again to our hosts. We also want to thank some sponsoring organizations for their support of DPLAfest. Text Help, Digital Transitions, and the Digital Library Federation. DLF actually sponsored travel for some attendees through cross-pollinator grants. And Text Help and Digital Transitions, I believe, will have demo space tomorrow at the National Archives. Finally, I'd like to just give a sincere thanks to our funders. They have provided such important and continued support of our mission and everything you've heard so far this morning and we'll hear about in the next couple of days. Starting with the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, IMLS, the Knight Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Whiting Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, Anonymous Donor, and others. They've all really worked together as a community to really enable what we've done as a community. I'd like to begin with Doron Weber of the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, who will say a few words about Sloan and their mission.
Thanks, Dan. It's really a pleasure to be here, and this is almost what certain politicians would call huge. You've really got a lot of people. It's really wonderful to see how far this has come. The Sloan Foundation, we make grants in science, technology, and economic performance, and this is part of a program that we call Universal Access to Knowledge, which aims to use advances in digital information technology to make the fruits of scientific and cultural knowledge available for the widest public benefit, upholding the highest standards and values. And before I begin with our funding of DPLA, in the pre-DPLA, it's interesting, our first grant actually went to the Library of Congress, who's hosting us here. It was in 2004, and as a funder, normally I'm pursued pretty avidly, but in this instance, I had to almost force the grant upon them, not because they didn't want the money, but because everyone was talking about digitization at the time, but there was a fair amount of resistance to how to do it, and we managed to get the grant through. The Internet Archive, Brewster Kahle, gave us machines, and the library started digitizing. And at the time, they had 34 million books. I'm not sure how many you have now. And I asked, so how many, everyone was talking digitization, how many are digitized? And the answer was 5,000. So we, I think, gave them the first about 100,000 mass digitization effort. I think they then created a FedLink system, which continues to this day. And so that was the beginning of the pre-DPLA days. The first grant, which was David alluded to, in 2010, Sloan arguably, I think we've made about $7 to $8 million in grants, but maybe the most important was $36,388 grant to the Radcliffe Institute with Robert Darnton as the PI. And that was to bring everyone together in one room. There was a lot of talk about starting a national digital library, but we had a lot of people who wouldn't speak to each other. There were a lot of conflicting views. We got everyone together in one room, and we talked, and then I said the equivalent of locking the doors here, and I said we can't leave until we have one sentence we all agree on. So we wrote a sentence together as a group. I was at the whiteboard, and people would correct me and make contributions. The sentence, I think I remember it, is an open, distributed network of comprehensive online resources that would draw on the nation's living heritage from libraries, universities, archives, and museums to educate, inform, and empower everyone in this and current and future generations. That was the, remember that. So that was the founding charter of the DPLA, and that was what we in the foundation were called a deliverable. So I actually had something concrete for that grant. And then, of course, we started with the Berkman Center. John Palfrey did an incredible job. We gave them a grant that created a secretariat, a steering committee, 6 work streams, wiki, a website, a listserv. We started having meetings. I think OSI and NEH came on board. We had a meeting in Amsterdam, met with Europeana, I think in June we gave a grant to Berkeley Law Center to work on the on the copyright obstacles. In October of 2011, David, we kicked off the plenary. And actually, one of the funders not listed, so Sloan put in $2.5 million, but the Arcadia Fund matched us, our good friends Peter Baldwin and Elizabeth Rousing. And we then had a 2-year process with a lot of meetings, a lot of workshops, a lot of conversation, digitization, prototype building, pilot, and community building, because DPLA at the end really is about community. And we launched in 2013. Within a month, it was named one of the top 50 websites by Time Magazine. Sloan made a grant, I think, in December of 2012 to find an executive director. We had a national search. We were fortunate enough to find Dan Cohen. And since then, the Knight Foundation, IMLS, helped build the hubs. As Dan showed you, I think half the nation, we're hoping to complete it by 2017. So there's been remarkable progress, and it's to be applauded. And usually I play the role of cheerleader, but I would just encourage us to do even more. I think it would be great. First, we need more funders. You know, Gates, not to mention names, very generously gave $1 million, but Gates is about 20 times the size of Sloan. So if you take our $7 million multiplied by 20, that's $140 million. So 139 more to go, Gates. And we would like similar contributions from a good friend Darren Walker at the Ford Foundation. Others, I think we'd like to see them step up and increase the staffing and let DPLA really become, I would like it to be like Wikipedia. We're still the kind of largest funder of Wikipedia, which I think is a model for what you can do on the web. And we'd like to see DPLA play that kind of role. We're also very proud of the progress on the open ebooks. Dan is to be applauded. I think Tony Marx here, the New York Public Library, played a really critical role. And we'd like to continue that and build that up and let DPLA continue to play that kind of leadership role. So anyway, thank you very much. You should all feel proud for your role in this. We're living in a kind of very strange time, and I think the importance of knowledge and access and a safe environment where values of transparency and universality and rationality and truth are even more important than ever. So I commend all of you for your role. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Doron. The National Endowment for the Humanities has also been there from the start as a key funder. I just also want to give a shout out to their staff as well, who've been so incredibly helpful along the way. Chairman Burrow Adams is here to talk about NEH and the way that our work with the National Endowment for the Humanities has really helped to promote the common good. So, Burrow.
Well, thank you, Dan, and good morning, everyone. What a great turnout. What a wonderful audience. So many friends of NEH here. It's really nice to be with you and to share just a couple of thoughts. It's hard following the three Davids, not least because of the object envy that I'm experiencing. All those millions of objects. Of course, NEH doesn't have any objects. We support a lot of objects with our work. Some of you know this is the 50th anniversary of the signing of the act that brought us into existence, September 29th, 1965. The pen of Lyndon Johnson creating both the NEA and the NEH. We haven't collected objects over that time, but we've given away about $5.3 billion in about 63,000 grants to humanities institutions and scholars all across the country. So those are our numbers, not objects, but hugely important numbers in the grand sweep of the humanities community in this country. Thank you. We share a lot in common with DPLA, and I'm sure that's what brought us in to this very significant project. The values, first of all, sharing the value of demonstrating the value and its significance of the cultural heritage of this country, a hugely important value for us at NEH, and I know for the DPLA as well. And attached closely to that, providing open public access to those extraordinary riches of the country, which are coming together in so many interesting ways in this project, and stimulating collaboration and partnerships among the organizations that either own or have access to the things within that extraordinary cultural heritage. And last but not least, I think we all understand the growing importance of the digital universe with respect to the humanities and how much of interest is going on in the humanities community because of these wonderful, extraordinary digital technology. As Dan said, we were among the first funders of this project, and we're proud to be so, having given a grant of about $1 million to help create those first 4, I believe it was, original hubs, a subsequent grant of $250,000 supporting the extension of those hubs. The present is enormously impressive, and to see the progress that's been made since that first grant is terrific. 13 million objects, as you've heard. Extraordinary promise for educational institutions, particularly the K-12 universe, which I think needs a lot of help now, especially in preserving and extending to students the humanities legacy of this country. NEH is helping in other ways to advance the work of this important organization and initiative. In 2015 alone, we awarded about $3.5 million to 29 projects, which will lend all of their digital content to the DPLA portal, so there is more coming by way of the other grants we're making. Also, we're experiencing local organizations that we're helping are now able to share very, very local and specific content, some of it private until very recently, through the DPLA portal. That's becoming part of the national cultural legacy as well. The other interesting recent development, some of you know about our collaboration with the Mellon Foundation in the Open Book Project, where we're digitizing important humanities texts now out of print, and we're helping presses, university presses primarily, bring those items back into print, or not into print actually, into digital format, all of which will be made available through the DPLA. This is going to be about 500 titles now out of print, will be free and open to the public through the DPLA and other resources. In sum, we're very proud of this investment and what it's done. We're enormously grateful for all the hard work that has brought it to this place, and we're very excited about the prospects for the future, especially as it affects access and the implications of that access for the educational world and the work of humanities organizations around the country. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Thanks again to NEH. The Institute of Museum and Library Services has also played just a core instrumental role, and I just want to thank them again, and also staffers at IMLS. Maura Marx, I will mention, is not only the Deputy Director of Library Services at IMLS, but she was in fact the Director of the DPLA Secretariat in its planning phase, and really deserves so much credit for everything we've talked about today. Maura, could you come up and talk about IMLS and their role?
Thank you, Dan. It is amazing to be here with all of you. I'm bringing my laptop not because my memory is not as good as Doron's, but so that you could see the battered DPLA sticker there on the front of this laptop. So as you know, IMLS is the federal funder of libraries across the country, and we have been proud to support DPLA under our National Digital Platform priority from the very beginning. For us, the National Digital Platform is a way of thinking about digital capacity in the country. It's a way of thinking about funding technology and services that will enable libraries to leverage and benefit the work of other libraries, that we work towards interoperability rather than silos, and that we work towards the broadest possible access for all people. So we have been thrilled to support DPLA's work in 2 major areas. The first one is the Hydra in a Box project, which you know, which is a community repository project that will enable lots of smaller institutions to get into DPLA, so we're thrilled about that. And the second is the Open eBooks project, which you just heard about, the evolution of that. It started as a project, it turned into a presidential initiative to get ebooks into the hands of economically disadvantaged kids, and it was built around software developed by New York Public Library and funded by IMLS. We think this eBooks work is so important, not only because of the kids it serves, but because it involves DPLA in delivering in-copyright content. DPLA was founded, as we've heard, in October 2010, in part in response to unresolved copyright questions. It was founded on the idea that the policy and legal environments in this country had not kept pace with developments in technology and content, and that if we had a community-developed blueprint for a national strategy, we could create a living, breathing, all-encompassing digital library that did not stop at 1923. So it is awe-inspiring to stand here today and celebrate with you the tremendous progress that DPLA has made in the past 5 years. 1,900 institutions. That is truly awesome. To have in sight a DPLA that encompasses all 50 states is also just breathtaking. It's moving to be here in the Library of Congress as we await confirmation of a new librarian who will surely face new challenges and opportunities in the discussion around copyright and copyright law. And we're proud to work with Sloan, with Knight, with NEH, hopefully with many new funders as you all continue working towards that goal of a truly universal library that will educate, inform, and empower all people. Thank you so much, DPLA. Can't wait for the next 2 days.
That is a nice-looking battered sticker there. It's like an old punk T-shirt or something. Finally, George Martinez of the Knight Foundation. I mentioned earlier the launch of rightstatements.org, our new international interoperable clear right statements around library, archive, and museum content. Knight has not only funded that, but has funded Hub's expansion, and has also funded some exploratory work that we're doing around newspapers, which we're hoping to tell you more about in the coming months and years. George, if you could come up for a moment. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Knight Foundation. I've also had the privilege of spearheading our universal access and library work. Now, Knight Foundation is a national organization with deep local roots in 26 communities that had Knight-written newspapers at the time of the passing of our last funder, James Landon Knight. Along with his older brother, John, who preferred to be called Jack, the brothers took a small bankrupt newspaper from Akron, Ohio, and turned it into what was the largest American newspaper and media company in the 70s. They did this by emphasizing quality journalism, smart business practices, and good old horse trading. And by horse trading, I mean, I think there was actually a thoroughbred involved in the acquisition of one of the newspapers in Kentucky, but that's a story for a different time. Now, Jim ran the money side of things out of Miami, and Jack was a consummate newsman who, out of his office in Akron, was the only publisher for all the papers until his passing in 1981. They were what we would call today fast followers of innovation, always willing to use new technologies that could help them run this dispersed empire that went from coast to coast in the US. Telephone, teletype, fax, satellites, you name it, they tried it. Sometimes they didn't work, sometimes their ideas were just a little bit too ahead of their time, but they weren't afraid to try. Now, profits and losses are the same wherever you are in the United States, but Knight Brothers didn't want all their newspapers to look exactly the same. They didn't want the Detroit Free Press to look like the Akron Beacon Journal just because they were all involved in the automotive industry, or that the Philadelphia Inquirer should mirror the Miami Herald because they had, a lot of tourism. Jack emphasized, better yet, he demanded that each paper reflect the unique character and flavor of their communities that they were in. From their writings and speeches, we know that they believe that democracy thrives only when the people in those communities are informed and engaged. And this also happens to be our mission statement, creating informed and engaged communities. It's because of this emphasis on creating informed and engaged communities that Knight started funding in the areas of universal access and libraries. And, you know, when you look at it, what institution in our communities today really says informed and engaged better than the public library? It's the most democratic and egalitarian institution we have anywhere. The best description I ever heard at one of these conferences was that libraries are democracy's best kept promise. I think that's true today, and it's been true forever. So I gave you this little brief history of Knight Foundation so you can really understand why the DPLA and the grant proposals they've submitted to us resonate so strongly at Knight Foundation. The original grant for the creation of the core infrastructure and hubs reminded us of how the Knights successfully ran their newspaper empire, with the hubs leveraging what was unique to each state or regional partner, and the core infrastructure bringing it all together while creating a useful platform to access information or create new versions of the content on that information. Also, DPLA has not been afraid to experiment and tackle difficult areas, things like digital rights and copyright issues that Dan alluded to. They've also not hesitated to reach out and collaborate with colleagues in Europe and Australia, which you will hear more about during this next few days. And near and dear to our journalistic roots is DPLA's exploration of how to bring born digital newspapers and content into the fold and make sure that these aren't unavailable or lost to future generations. And finally, and selfishly to me, as the relationship manager for this grant, the success of the original hubs has created demand to expand into more of this country. So as I look out today and see all of you in this audience, I'm really heartened that all the new faces here joining the folks that I've seen before seems to be growing. And, you know, for me as a funder, I've got the easy part. You know, giving away the money might sound difficult, but it's not that hard. Doron might argue with me. It's you and the DPLA staff and all the folks that have been involved in directing the work of the DPLA over the years that really have the difficult part and are making the impact. So I encourage you to continue supporting and contributing this important effort. We're all grateful for everything you're doing, and I hope to see more of you at the next DPLAfest. Thank you.
Thank you, George, and to the Knight Foundation, and to all of our funders. We have others in the room as well, and we should thank them all for their support. Are you ready to fest? Here we go. Okay. Before we finish up, just a few bits of housekeeping, which will be important. We have a number of fabulous panels today. You can see the chairs here. They will soon be filled with wonderful people. And so here in the Coolidge Auditorium all day, we will have some headline sessions on the future of libraries, authorship in a digital age, technology trends in libraries, just to name a few. And we also, of course, have smaller sessions that you can see, at least electronically or on the beautifully printed program in smaller venues. We are really packed to the gills here. We have over 450 people. And so we're going to do our best to accommodate everyone, but rooms will be a little bit first come, first serve. So if you, for some reason, are stacked up or outside the door in one of the smaller rooms, you can, of course, always head back here. There'll be seats here for you to use, and you won't be disappointed with any of the conversations in this room. Now, today we're at the Library of Congress, but we're actually in two buildings. This is the Jefferson Building, as David Mao mentioned. You'll also notice in your program that there are sessions in the Madison Building, which is across the street. Now, there is a tunnel between the two buildings, which is really fun. If you've never been in the tunnel between the buildings of the Library of Congress, I encourage you to take it. There will be signage, and in fact, we have 3 Library of Congress staffers who will now wave. Maybe if we could lift the lights for just a second. So there's one in the back there. So there will be Library of Congress. Yeah, there we go. And down here, I'm sorry, yes. So look for your friendly Library of Congress staffers to connect you to the tunnel if you need to get over to the Madison Building. Again, all event staffers, I'm not wearing my badge right now, but all DPLA staffers and Library of Congress staffers will be wearing the yellow lanyards. So look for those lanyards if you need any help. One note also about lanyards. We provided red lanyards for those who do not wish to be photographed. So as you can see, we've got a professional photographer here. Other people may be taking photographs. So just keep in mind if some folks do not like to be photographed, they're wearing the red lanyards. We have box lunches distributed from the Great Hall here in the Jefferson Building and Madison Hall if you're over in the Madison Building. We're going to do our best to divide up those lunches in those two places. Do your best to be wherever you want to be for the afternoon, the first afternoon session. If you could pick up a lunch there, that would help us ensure that we've got enough people in both places as well. David mentioned it's a great opportunity to tour these wonderful buildings, to get to know really all your federal institutions over the next 2 days. From 12 to 2 today, so over the lunchtime 2 hours, there'll be 5 different stations around the Library of Congress here in the building. Docent stories, background information, architectural details. It's in a truly incredible building. If you've never had a tour, I encourage you to build your own here in the building. The Library of Congress shop is offering a 10% discount at their shop. I spoke to a Library of Congress staffer last night. Evidently, their socks are best sellers. So I have not checked out the Library of Congress socks, but I have heard that they are truly incredible and bring revenue into the Library of Congress that they can use to digitize more content that will end up in the DPLA as part of our new partnership. So I encourage you to sock it up and get whatever else you want. Again, with your lanyard of any color, you'll be able to get a discount there. Reception. We're going to have an amazing reception in David Ferriero's home tonight at the Library of Congress, Library of Archives, National Archives building at 6:30. Stay with me. There'll be hors d'oeuvres, there'll be drinks, there'll be special events, there's going to be trivia contest. There'll be tours of the Amending America exhibition and our Recovering the Classics pop-up gallery. These are wonderful public domain books that have been re-envisioned, covers re-envisioned by artists. Terrific. Okay, you need to be sure, this is important, to enter via the special events entrance tonight on Constitution Avenue between 9th and 7th Street. Special events entrance, I believe, is closer to 7th Street. Here's the key part. Please don't forget your badge. Bring your badge. Wear your badge to the special event. Bring your name badge. No number of Davids will help you if you do not bring your name badge. Tomorrow we will once again be in the National Archives for the second day and the Smithsonian Ripley Center, 2 wonderful places to be for the second day of the fest. There will not be a kickoff session. I'm sorry, this is the most you'll hear from me. And like there was today, you'll just show up to wherever you want to go. Again, check your schedule. Breakfast and lunch, again, breakfast and lunch will be available at both locations, both the Smithsonian Ripley Center and the National Archives. If you want to walk between the two, it is a beautiful walk across the mall. We included a map in your packet, and so you might want to review that. Finally, we'll have a wrap-up session at the McGowan Theater at 3:15 p.m. in the National Archives building. And it's just going to be a brief wrap-up session. We'll talk about some of the great things that have happened over the past 2 days, some wonderful outcomes. There's hackathons going on. There's all kinds of wonderful conversations. Again, we hope to see you all there at 3:15 tomorrow afternoon to wrap up. Finally, once again, there it is, the wonderful DPLAfest hashtag. Use it in your favorite social media app. We encourage everyone to live tweet for those who are not here. We're excited to capture the conversations, the presentations, and just the fun that we're all going to have together over the next couple of days. So that's it. Have a wonderful time at DPLAfest 2016. We're so delighted you're here, and enjoy.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.